This episode of Ticket Volume is brought to you by us, Invigate. Get service operations under control in no time. Get 1 free month of our software solution by going to try.invigate.com. Ticket Volume is proud to present an IT asset disposition geek and account executive at Sycamore International, Inc. With 11 years' experience in technology repair and recycling, today's guest has gone deep into sustainability, taught me so much about big batteries, and really knows a ton about what happens to technology after the enterprise discards it. Welcome to Ticket Volume, news and information for improving IT experiences. I'm your host, Matt Beran, and each episode I am so lucky to get to chat with different nerds and leaders and geeks to share insights on service management, technology, and business. And this episode is going to have more reusable knowledge. And hey, do you want to continue the conversation after this episode? Comment on YouTube or on our LinkedIn social accounts. Use these platforms to dig deeper into this topic and engage with the experts in our industry, or give us some guest ideas or topic ideas. Help me spend our budget. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day and a great week, and I also hope that you'll share our podcast with someone. Get involved and get us improving now. Let's begin. Welcome to Ticket Volume, Alicia Syx.
Woohoo! Hi, Matt. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for coming. Thanks for being here. It always takes a little bit of time to contribute to Ticket Volume, and I greatly appreciate it. We actually met at the HDI Philly chapter, the local chapter out in Philadelphia. And your company was sponsoring, and there were a couple other vendors that were your competitors there, but I went up to your booth, and you went straight nerd so quick that my head was spinning. You laid out some acronyms, and I was like, oh, there's a lot more here that I didn't know about. So I had to have you on, and thank you for saying yes.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I'm definitely looking forward to talking more about what we do. About what we see and experience in this world, and you are not lying. There is so much to this that people just don't even realize. So looking forward to doing a deep dive into our services.
Let's get into it. Okay, so why does IT asset disposition matter? What are the environments that you guys go in? What do you see before Sycamore comes in and evolves a practice?
So let's see. I guess there are so many different aspects to, ITAD, asset disposition, that people they don't fully grasp the environmental impacts of it, the data security aspect of it. And then additionally, just like for, the teams that we work with to really control their inventory and understand, I've worked with quite a few people who just don't have any idea what they're actually giving us, which is mind-blowing to me. Because we're kind of, that final check to say, like, yes, we've received all these devices, make sure they're out of your system so you have an accurate inventory. So it's helpful all around, as well as being like responsible with your end of life equipment, Yeah.
Yeah, so you go into a company and they haven't been thinking about asset disposition, and so they've got like I heard a story recently from someone. We were trying to find some old technology to sell on eBay or to have an event, and someone said, "Oh, I think my company has an entire floor of old technology just like it's floor 7 in our building, and it's just old technology as far as the eye can see." Do you run into situations like, is there a graveyard? What is the actual
Yes.
What is the state of the state?
I will have to say that I have literally probably seen everything that you can imagine. I've walked into rooms where they literally just have like a pile of equipment. Like it is like a mountain of monitors and desktops and keyboards and everything you can think of just in a pile in a room, like taking up the whole room, which is, I don't understand why you would do that, but I've seen it. And then, you go to the other end of the spectrum where it's like everything is, completely controlled and they have everything lined up on racks and it's separated by equipment type. And it's definitely, I think that we've seen everything. I mean, I've been to buildings that have closed recently. So it's like our team is going room to room and making sure that they have every piece of technology from that room. So it's like office to office to office on floors. I actually I'm working on one now where it's a building in Philadelphia, 17 floors. Our team has to go floor by floor, go into every single room and take the equipment. So yeah, we've definitely seen everything that you can think of. My concern with that is obviously data security. Like if you just have random equipment just on some floor that's not really a controlled, secure space, like that's concerning to me. And I think that anyone who works with technology should be concerned about that. You definitely want to know where your equipment is, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Because if you don't know where it is, you likely don't know what data is on it. And if you don't know what data is on it, you don't know what a bad actor can extrapolate from it. I remember reading a story once about someone pulling a cache out of a server, and they hadn't cleared the cache, and they were able to actually retrieve the data off the cache. Totally nuts. Like crazy to think that people go through the effort to do that. But that's what happens when you just give your old technology to a guy with a pickup truck and it falls off the truck and you're able to just pick up that server off the ground. Look, there's 12 hard drives in here.
Exactly. And that is like, that definitely leads me into like a different segment. Like that is so concerning. It is something that I hear over and over again where I'm like, who handles your, your technology recycling? They're like, I don't know, some guy comes in a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, that's just mind blowing, because we've had so many cases where, our clients are like, we wiped this equipment, everything's gone through the data destruction process, it's good to go. With our certification, like we still have to check every piece of equipment that comes in with data. And you would be amazed how many times it's like, you didn't wipe them all. Like there was data on 2 or 3 of your devices. That matters, So it's like that second check's good, but if you're just giving it to some guy in a pickup truck, then that data is who knows where. You have no idea where it's actually going.
Yeah, and we're starting to see this in some of the popular frameworks. They've started to think about what is the total supply chain look like, and do you have control of those assets along that entire supply chain? Let's get into data security, because I think you brought it up, and I think it's really important that people hear about it. You threw around a couple acronyms. One of them was R2V3. Another one was NIAD AAA certified.
NAID.
What are those? What do those 2 acronyms mean?
All right. So NAID AAA is a third party. Essentially, we have like a certification, from a third party organization. They come in, they routinely audit us. They do surprise visits for our teams who are doing removals to make sure that, our teams on site are doing everything that they're supposed to, ensuring that the trucks are locked at all times if they're not there. If they're inside, packing equipment, our trucks have to be locked because anyone can just get in if there's stuff in there. Mm-hmm. So it's more of just, that check saying like, yes, you're doing everything that you're supposed to. Data security is everything's being followed. We have a secure facility, so nobody can get into our buildings without badges. Just ensuring that we are actually fulfilling all of our needs or all of our clients' needs for data security. And then R2V3, it's a little bit different. I will say there's actually more stringent standards for data destruction in R2V3. So it's not just responsible recycling, which is what it stands for, R2 squared, or R squared. So that has to do with, responsible recycling as well as data destruction and data security. But the R2V3 also ensures that no equipment's going into a landfill. No equipment's going overseas for dumping. Everything's getting responsibly recycled. And like with that, there's multiple tiers of recycling. So like Sycamore, for example, we're like a tier 1. Essentially, we're taking, assets directly from clients. Our goal is to refurbish and extend the life of technology. So, it's like, I don't have to manufacture new devices because there's still life in some of the equipment that we're getting. So we want to make sure that we're using it till it actually isn't functioning anymore.
Yes.
And then the other side of that is, responsible recycling. So essentially we're breaking down equipment, but not completely. We're not extracting, the lithium from the batteries. We're not extracting the metals from the equipment. We're sending that to a tier 2 or a tier 3. But with R2V3, we actually have to send that to a downstream that is also R2V3 certified. So the whole process is just this giant chain of responsibility, ensuring, again, nothing's going into a landfill, nothing's going overseas for dumping, and it's just, there's an environmental aspect as well as like the data security aspect for that one. So fully compliant here.
Yes, I love that. NIAD AAA certified. That kind of makes sense. That I love the idea of. I mean, on the buying end, if I'm buying from Sycamore, I love the idea of random audits. I don't necessarily love the idea of being randomly audited.
Yeah, it's pretty intense, to be honest with you. These audits are like days long. Like, they are intense. They're going around, they're questioning our employees, making sure everyone knows the standards, everyone knows the procedures and processes, testing our software, even going as far as like looking at our proposals, making sure that they are, we're providing the correct information in our proposals that we're sending clients. So yeah, they're crazy. And our director of operations, when an audit's happening.
Yeah.
She's walking around like with tears in her eyes.
Tears of joy, I'm sure. Tears of
exactly.
joy. But great that they're also auditing the employees' knowledge of it, because that, like, we know in IT, especially from the cybersecurity angle, you can put in any amount of process and automation that you want. It really is about what people are doing that makes the difference. Mm-hmm. I love the story also that you said, you looked at a competitor's site on Google Street View and their garage door was open.
Yes.
It's that like, physical security that really matters, right?
Exactly. It's like they're in a city, not like we're in the middle of nowhere. Like, I'm in the boonies, I'm in the sticks, like we're in the middle of nowhere. But like, this particular organization's in the middle of a city with their garage door open, where you can literally in the picture see assets. And it's just like, anyone can take them. That is not secure. Like, that's frightening to me.
Yes. And I would love to actually, I'm going to skip around. I know we planned out a specific order for things, but when I'm thinking about data security, my brain goes to wiping the hard drives. And you guys actually have a very deep investment in being able to wipe efficiently in that battery. Explain that a little bit.
So we have a system called Secures, which is like a software system that we use for digital wiping. And first, I actually want to just stop for 1 second. Everybody thinks of hard drives when they think of data destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Please note, everybody be aware of this. There's data in printers. There's data in desk phones. Like, there is data in so much equipment that people don't think of, and it's not just hard drives. Yeah. So I just want to point that out. But yeah, so along the lines of, securely wiping hard drives, we obviously go by like the NIST standard. That is number one. That's the biggest one. DoD is actually obsolete. A lot of people still reference the Department of Defense method of data destruction. That is no longer valid. Like, that is not a thing.
Okay.
If you're using someone who uses that, please ask if they can use NIST.
Nice.
But yeah, so we use Secures, and this is actually, the software itself is really amazing to me because there are so many different standards for how you wipe data. Mm-hmm. And it really depends on where you're at in the world. But there are an insane amount. So like in Europe, they don't use the NIST standard. They use, whatever they're compliant with. But our software actually enables us to use whatever method our clients prefer.
Okay.
We have 32 different standards that we can actually adhere to when we're doing data destruction. So if there is a particular method that our clients prefer, we can switch to that. We can do that. It's not a problem. And, with that, like, obviously, not all hard drives can be wiped. Mm-hmm. You can try, but some of them just don't function. So it's like, you want to ensure that you're working with an organization that has the capability of shredding them. Yeah. Degaussing, that's kind of outdated too.
Yeah.
Nobody really does that anymore. That's not a thing. I mean, I'm sure people still do it, but it's not really up to code.
They do it for fun. They throw it
Yes.
in an X-ray machine for fun, or a microwave for fun.
Exactly. Yeah, it's cool to see, I guess. But yeah, so make sure you're working with someone who can actually physically destroy these assets. That's going to shred them, to the standard that they should be. I mean, they should be little tiny pieces. Yeah. Does that make sense?
The owner of the company saw that you guys were running these wiping applications on the hard drives and on other technology, and the power would go out.
Oh, yeah.
Because you guys are out there in the middle of
We
nowhere,
are
like
out
you
there.
said.
Yeah.
And that would mean that the wiping stopped and you had to start over, right?
Exactly. So, yeah, so we live, again, in the boonies. Work. I don't live in the boonies, but I work in the boonies. But yeah, so the grid that we're on is not really stable. It's not really efficient. I mean, I think a lot of people in our area are seeing that as well. So yeah, we were constantly losing power. It'd be a sunny day, but a breeze would turn our power off. It takes hours to wipe a hard drive. So anytime we would lose power, even for a minute, we would have to start the entire process over again. So you can imagine how time consuming that was when you're wiping hundreds of hard drives at a time, and one little blink of the electric and you have to start the whole process over again.
Yeah.
So we were just kind of fed up with the whole thing. We went ahead, we got solar panels installed on our building, and we went with new technology. It's an iron flow battery, ASS iron flow battery. It is the size of a shipping container. We actually have 2 of them on our property. And it stores all the energy from the solar panels that we, that we're making, essentially. And we're completely off the grid. We are 100% carbon neutral processing facility. Only technology recycling company in the country that can say that. So it's only a little brag point for you.
Love it.
But yeah, so we're 100% carbon neutral.
Yes, and you
Who
guys
can say that?
shared the batteries on your corporate on your social media on LinkedIn recently, and it was so fun to get to see, like, there's moving parts on the battery. It's amazing. I highly recommend you check it out. And I'm a I'm a prepper, so I love the idea of being 100% off the grid. So whenever someone says off grid, my ears perk up a little bit. How are you doing that? How do you do that? So I gotta share that, and good for you guys for doing that too.
Yeah.
It not only is it business efficiency, but also ecological, and I love that, because
Exactly.
that is where the value lies. Is when, from 2 perspectives, you can really see that value. Let's talk about finance, because I think, especially when it comes to asset management, especially at the beginning of the life cycle, that's really where we're thinking, hey, asset management is all about the financial impact. What are we buying? How are we buying it? Should we be buying it? What is the ROI? How are we going to measure the ROI? And then on your end of the spectrum, once we get that value out of the machine, there's still value left, right? Talk
Correct.
about that a little bit. How do you guys think about the end of the asset life cycle?
So our goal, honestly, we want to be a revenue source for the organizations that we work with. Sorry. With that, like, obviously, older equipment is not necessarily always obsolete. It's not always non-functional. There's quite a few organizations that are on, a 3-year refresh or a 4-year refresh, or they're, every 4 years, they're just updating their laptops, which
they always have.
Really smart. You want to stay up to date with your technology. It's changing constantly. So, the refresh cycles are amazing. But with that, it's like, obviously that equipment still has life in it. There's, it's not done. It might be done for, the company that we're working with, but, in our terms, like, that retains value. So you shouldn't be charged to process that device. I mean, for data security, I think that's understandable. But if that asset retains value, you should be getting money back.
Yes.
So obviously that's our goal. Every, laptops, desktops, tablets, that sort of thing, they do retain value, and we can provide compensation for that. I've talked to quite a few different organizations where they're not getting anything back, or they're just being charged like a flat fee for every device, every laptop they send in.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't make sense to me, because if you're sending in a 4-year-old laptop, like, that still has value. What we see in the industry is, year over year, there is essentially 70%, like a deduction. So you think the loss in value, 70% of the original device value year over year. So, you think about it, you buy like a $2,000 device, next year it's going to be worth, 900 or whatever it is. Don't judge my math here. But in 4 years from now, obviously there's still value. So you want to get that back because that's going to help you buy new equipment. That's going to help offset some of the cost for whatever your team is doing. So don't just send it to someone who's charging you.
Yeah.
But with that being said, there is obviously a lot of technology that is obsolete. Unfortunately, networking equipment, I have to point out, it's extremely expensive to purchase new. It loses value so quickly. It just, within a few years, it's not worth anything. And it does become, negative value where you have to do data destruction services on it. So, some items can be costly, but again, that's really how the organization functions and what their refresh cycles are. There are definitely that equipment, because it is so expensive. I tell everyone, I'm like, use it until it doesn't function. Just use it. You want to get the value out of it,
Yes.
But yeah, with that being said, make sure you're getting value. That's my whole thing. Don't get robbed.
I like the way you put it. I think you said specifically, replace the invoice with a check.
Yeah.
You could actually make money off this. And totally good point about networking equipment. You don't see a lot of consumers going out and buying used Wi-Fi routers. Like that is
exactly.
You're asking for a problem when you do that. Who knows who flashed that firmware too?
Yeah.
And you brought up data destruction again. Another great point. The networking equipment stores a lot of information, a lot of personally private information too. So it's a big one. Let's talk about the other equipment too. Like, what else do you see out there that's an environmental disaster? What are the things that, like, if you could go upstream and tell companies don't buy this, tell schools don't buy this, what would those things be?
So I don't want to get in trouble. I would. But I definitely, from what we're seeing, because we do work with a lot of K through 12 organizations, so we're seeing a lot of Chromebooks. Okay. I understand why education, organizations are purchasing them. They have a lower cost. You think about it, and they're like $300 to $350 to buy brand new. Yeah. Okay. They don't last. They're not durable. They aren't made to last, 6-7 years. They may be supported that long or longer. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to still be a functional device. What we're seeing on our end is they're coming in and these devices are cannibalized, essentially because the parts in the older Chromebooks are functional. They're compatible with the newer Chromebooks. So yeah, it makes sense. You're not going to buy a new LCD for $65 when you can take it out of an older device and it's still compatible with the new one. So a lot of the devices that we're seeing, they're missing LCD panels. They're missing bezels. They're missing hinges. It's not cost effective for us to refurbish them, for the same reason that it's not cost effective for schools or, organizations using Chromebooks to purchase these new parts. It's not cost effective. So then what that's turning into on our end is they're not retaining value. We can't resell these devices because it's not cost effective to fix them. It's a data security project now. Now, all it is we have to go through. We still have to wipe all of these devices. We still have to do all of our services on these devices, but there's no value to them. So it's just overall negative. It's just a negative project. So that's one huge thing that I'm seeing is like an environmental disaster, because it's just, you're getting these devices quicker than you would, a laptop or a tablet. They only last like 3 to 4 years realistically. So yeah, you're just, honestly, it's creating more waste at a faster pace. With that, we're also seeing interactive panels, which are great. They're great. I think they, we're seeing right now the trend where interactive, like smart boards or like active panels, they're replacing projectors. So we're getting a lot of projectors in because people don't need them anymore because they're just using the interactive panels. The newer panels have an OS installed on them. So unlike the older panels, the newer panels actually have to have data destruction performed on them as well. And then, you're just thinking about it environmentally. Like, unfortunately, there is no secondary market for them. So again, it's another piece of equipment that's extremely expensive to purchase. And if you're not using all of the life for this device, like, don't expect anything when you're recycling them. Expect a charge because they have to have data destruction performed on them. And then they're costly to dispose of properly. So there are definitely different types of equipment that, they're costly items to recycle responsibly. I don't think that people realize that. They just automatically assume everything has value. Everything, everything's gold. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just plastic.
You get what you pay for,
Exactly.
And it's an interesting problem in the consumer space, and it apparently is making it into the enterprise space too. Like if you don't, and let's talk about the experience of Chromebooks too. Like I'm sorry, but using them is pretty terrible too. So
they're not an efficient, like, again, maybe for a first grader they work. I get it.
Yes.
But for someone who is in a position at a corporation, no, not so much. I'm definitely, like, I'm seeing students, applying for their first adult job, and they're coming out of school, and it's like they've used Chromebooks for the last 10 years of their lives, and they don't know how to do, like, basic computer needs. Like, they don't know how to use Excel. They don't know formulas. They don't know that sort of thing. And it's like, I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else, but I feel like half my day is spent in Excel. Like, I need to know that. I need to know the formulas. So it's very concerning that people are really going that route. I mean, I understand cost-wise why people would choose that, but I don't think that they're efficient in a workplace, and I don't think that maybe they're efficient in a high school.
Yeah, exactly. Penny wise, dollar stupid is what it comes down to, right?
Yes.
It's a terrible thing and an awesome thing. It enabled so much, but it also destroyed so much at the same time. Alicia, I want to thank you so much for taking some time to be on Ticket Volume and explaining this to me specifically and to my audience. How can people reach Sycamore? How can people get in touch with you?
So you can check out our website. It's www.sycamoreinternational.com. We definitely have all of our contact information on the contact page, as well as information about us and about the services that we provide. So we'll be happy to help anyone out who's interested.
Follow them on LinkedIn too to see some of the stuff behind the scenes. It's definitely worth checking out. Alicia, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being on Ticket Volume today.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you having me.
And for our audience, did you know that you can change and improve this podcast by DMing me, leaving a comment below on YouTube, Spotify, or LinkedIn, or just text me? That'll be another way to turn up the ticket volume. And speaking of ticket volume, did you know that this podcast is brought to you by Invigate? Invigate is an asset-forward service management vendor who designs good software at a fair price. In fact, IT teams from Allianz, NASA, and McDonald's use Invigate to manage requests, automate workflows, and centralize inventory data so that they can focus on delivering better service. Because good service is good business.